I have two children, and my first child has a number of exceptional needs. She has dyslexia, she has sensory integration differences, she has really big feelings, and she grew up different, and she knew it. You know, she knew that her behavior was not a match for what was appropriate. And it was really hard for me as a parent. And I think the first number of years, in some ways I did it right, but in some ways I did it wrong. My words were oftentimes, you know, affirming, but my body language was like, you know what I mean? Like, you're doing it wrong. And there's so many layers to this. You know, I think sometimes parents can get ashamed of their children's behavior. I think that for me, when I learned self-compassion, it helped a lot for me to like help her develop self-compassion, and also for me to help her see her own behavior, where she could say, yes, I am more, you know, I have bigger emotions and I feel less comfortable in my body and I don't read as well, and yet I have these gifts, right? But I felt like it took my own self-compassion for me to learn to embrace myself in a messy state, for me to learn to embrace her in a messy state. And to, you know, and I feel like before I had my own self-compassion practice, I could use the right words. I could say, yes, you want to pour oil all over the floor and then slide on it. But like my nonverbal said, and you need to knock this off. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know, I was afraid of her not being okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like I like had shame layered on her behavior. And then as I developed self-compassion as a personal practice, it's kind of like I was able to both give her more compassion for her struggles and help her to internalize self-compassion.
Well, that's such a beautiful story that you just told, and you know, there's just so much in it. But first of all, I love the word that you used, match. There wasn't like a perfect match between the way she does things or did things and the way the world expects things to be done. And when there's that mismatch, there's often, you know, rebuke or criticism or scorn or something. And any child that's, you know, not neurotypical or whatever, you know, not the perfect match with mainstream culture, will inevitably get this over and over again, and it gets internalized for sure. But what I was particularly appreciating in your story was how you noticed that even with the best of intentions, you would either feel shame because of her behavior, or you would feel shame, you know, kind of for her, but in a sense, you initially were not the master of your shame. In other words, it was getting in the way of how you wanted to relate to your daughter. And what I was mostly appreciating is that by learning self-compassion, that the shame not only was revealed, but it was also healed in a way that it no longer forced itself between you and your child. And also I was appreciating what you were saying is that no matter what I said, if I was still feeling shame inside, it would be communicated, and that my child would get it, you know, my child would feel my shame as her shame. And so we can't fake it. We can't fake it. So the inner work of dismantling our shame through the opposite of shame, which is kindness, then allowed you to interact with your daughter without that obstacle, you know? It's just a beautiful example you gave, Jamie.